he's doing. It's not a huge job. It's just seeing like it fit. In terms of somebody, a person. Yeah. Yeah. Well, no,
There is a cost implication of it.
Yeah.
But the principle's right, because the other way of doing it is using the smartphones. If we're looking at various means, most people have got a phone, and if we could get information out on that to access in, that provides an easy way to get information. And I know no one system is going to be effective. The papers, again, that's a cost element. They won't do it for nothing. We have to bear in mind there is a financial liability, and we have to look at how we can self-sustain this.
You need a common strategy, don't you? Because you've got things like Tesco. I'm sure the footfall from Tesco will go from 0 to 100 and X plus age per people. You've got GPs who will be able to hand out, staff will be able to have notice boards at the library. You just need a very detailed common strategy.
So I mean, it sounds like there's kind of support around the table for looking at it. I'm just trying to think of the best way.
For example, the thing you described at Cranbrook, we could easily put up in the reception here, and it could probably something similar could be in the library or any other public building.
It's very easy in Cranbrook, I think. It's a very small new community. It's got one central hub, isn't it?
But what we need to know is what to put on it.
Yeah. Well, you can ask our 23 people at Cranbrook that.
Sorry, can I just ask, because I really do want to move this on, because we're an hour into the meeting. It sounds like everyone's kind of supportive of this side. Are you coming up with a proposal?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, can I suggest that I'll talk, and maybe Charlotte as well, to Kerry Ross about developing a common strategy on a sort of a grander scale, because I think there is a little bit of that at the moment. But you know, I guess there's been another hand grenade thrown into the pot, and that also needs to be factored in. So then we can kind of move on.
I was just going to say, you don't have to wait until the hub is all fully up and running. There's some vision.
You
can do it now.
Absolutely, that's what I'm getting at, Michael. Lorraine, sorry, you had 5 minutes, and we've spoken for about 40. It's not your fault, it's mine as chair. Do you want to come back to the next meeting and give kind of a more focused presentation, or do you want to?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I think we can do a little bit, and I can go in and think, because also the stuff that you're sort of saying on the comms and marketing.
Yeah.
I know there's various tools that we use as a county sports partnership, which you might be able to feed. I don't know how that would work, but it's something I'll go back and just have a little think about.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone. That was I really enjoyed that discussion. It's really useful. Okay, moving on. Update from general practice development. Charlotte, shall I?
Yeah, so I won't go into too much detail, but I've shared with you something we discussed in the last meeting with Dr. Harris and Dr. Toomey, and they talked to us really about the need to integrate primary care into whatever development that we're doing. And so I've spent some time with both practices, both doctors, looking at how we might develop this vision a bit further. So if we're going to get to the stage of writing a business case for a purpose-built hub, if you like, with everything in it, then we need to really refine what we mean by that and what our vision is. And so we've started by looking at, in detail, we started looking at the various referrals into various specialties within to the RD&E from patients in this area. So what the practices want to do is start to test delivery of some acute services locally. So for example, it might be increased offer around dermatology, might be some joint injections. We're working through that detail. So this project plan gives you a brief overview
So
of
Charlotte,
the types of things
so
we're
just to be
looking at.
clear, so when you say an offer for dermatology and joint injections, what we mean by that is rather than patients having to go to the RD&E or Tiverton or Oakhampton for a joint injection or a dermatologist, they'd be seen
locally.
Locally.
Absolutely, yes.
That would overcome the discontinuity between an injection in Exeter and then finding there's no physiotherapy here for 2 months, and it's supposed to be done within a week of the injection.
It could well do.
Potentially, yeah. I mean,
That happens.
It's fairly complex because obviously there needs to be a critical mass in order to move services out into a local area, and there's a lot of overlap with what's provided in the hospital, and there's work to do with the consultants there. So this is an iterative process, and meeting with both doctors tomorrow afternoon in the CCG's Planned Care Control Centre, which is all about looking at elective care pathways. So we need to make sure whatever we're doing here in Crediton locally is aligned to the central CCG strategies around elective care pathways. But we've talked about maybe doing some public engagement around general practice with Healthwatch. Don't think we're quite ready to do that yet. I know that the doctors are really keen to incorporate an urgent care offer within a hub, so they're going to be talking to our urgent care control centre within the CCG to explore what that offer might look like and how it fits with
and
other
again,
areas.
What is urgent care?
So
Is that like A&E?
It's kind of A&E, minor injury, kind of paramedic services. It's kind of the whole lot.
Similar to what's available at Tiverton at the moment, or not?
Potentially.
It could be a level.
It wouldn't be as high a level as Tiverton, but there are. We know there are a number of things that sometimes through nobody's fault, people end up in the wrong services. So they might end up in A&E when it's something that could be dealt with by a GP locally or by a slightly enhanced GP service. So it's about looking to see whether there are some things, again, that people in Crediton and the surrounding area travel into the RD&E for, and actually see whether there's any way that kind of service can be provided locally. So it's all, it might be possible, not all of it might come off, but we're just looking at it, exploring it to see what would be possible. And it kind of, it fits in, I know Mary will have heard me talk about the 5-year forward view that Simon Stevens published a couple of years ago about kind of new structure of general practice, and it fits very much into the thinking of that document.
So may I just ask Charlotte?
Yeah.
I brought my glasses, but not my magnifying glass.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Would it be possible to send this electronically, not only to me, but to the town clerk,
Yes.
so that we could then pass it around to all councillors? Maybe something we could discuss at one of our committee meetings.
No, that's absolutely fine. If you let me have the town clerk's.
Town clerk at crediton.gov.uk.
So another element of the project is you may know the Primary Care Transformation Fund, which is a fund that NHS England are offering to general practice, and it's either around developing estates or developing their IT infrastructure, and that's something that the practices will be interested in bidding for. So that's labelled also on the project plan. There's a whole section around engagement with stakeholders, and I think this group's really key, but also making progress on that project. We'd expect to come back to you all here really, and obviously you would disseminate further information into other groups, town councils, League of Friends, etc. Another area that we've been working or looking at as well is end of life, and potentially a pilot around hospice care at home. I've talked to Jane Edwards about this. The key issue really in Crediton is that there really is a huge problem with securing care, domiciliary care, and so that really is tricky when you're trying to keep people at home and provide end of life care. So we're working through how we might mitigate that. But it's
the letter from the Courier that I asked you to circulate relates to that, exactly that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Charlotte, did you pick up on the Airedale Gold Line experiment for end of life care? It's a really good models that they deliver there.
Right.
It's I can send you the links to it. It's a really joined up service, one point of call, one contact number,
That's exactly what hospice
brilliant
care at home aims to do.
Yeah.
And there is actually a group within the CCG that's looking at end-of-life provision from a Devon more strategic point of view. But I think what we're saying is we might have an opportunity locally to pilot, as you said.
Yeah, there needs to be this could be a central hub for coordinating all the.
So that's just another element that we're looking at really. So is there any questions on that? It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour in the
Comprehensive.
exploring it really. The practices have a lot of work to do around the actual buildings that they're currently in. And
actually,
straightforward to do.
now would probably be a good time to bring up the point that Maycott wanted brought up now. So, Christopher sent an email to us. Actually, Charles, I'll just get it up.
Yeah, sorry, bear with me.
But basically, he was saying that if the practices are thinking of merging, oh here you are, I've got it here. Here, I'll read it out. So it says, I'd like to raise one point. Following Dr. Toomey's presentation and proposal for all medical and social services in Crediton to be on one site, I think it's apparent that Crediton Hospital site is too small. Another site, the rugby club, would not, for example, be able to accommodate sufficient parking. It is therefore imperative, it seems to me, to identify a possible site first before launching into prolonged discussions and expensive plans. So that's obviously Christopher's view. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because actually, what we're the CCG and NDHT are kind of statutory organisations, and I can't remember what we said last time, but you'll have heard me say before that actually primary care is they're private businesses essentially, and so it's up to the partners of those businesses to work out what works best for, or sorry, I'm not saying what works out best for them, but there's a slight tension between sometimes between what's set out in kind of government policy and what some GPs on the ground feel. So I think it's for the two Crediton practices they need to talk together, which they are, to work out whether it does make sense for them to merge.
Or whether there should be an attempt to set up a third practice. I'm concerned, we've all had a notice circulated about the proposed housing development at Pedlar's Pool. And I believe there's proposal for more housing in the area close to Tesco's.
Well Parks. The Well Parks.
Yes. And it does seem to me that it would make much more sense to have another practice situated that end of town, because I'm concerned not only about the elderly who maybe are past being allowed to drive, but about women with pushchairs. You know,
very sexist, Mary. People with pushchairs.
I can't remember where I last saw a man with one. It does happen.
Mary, it's a very valid point, and I understand that. The trouble, I suppose, I can give a bit of a perspective from a GP point of view, actually, and this isn't just for Crediton, but in other areas. If another surgery opens, there aren't any GPs to work there. There's a shortage of GPs nationally. We've been cushioned to an extent in Devon, but it's starting to bite. And you'll have heard Pete and Joe last month describing how they're worried about staffing and having GPs to staff their own surgery, let alone another one. So I completely understand your feelings about a third practice, but it's not a CCG decision, but I just can't see it happening.
I spoke at the last meeting to say that bringing the GPs in to the total programme, to the project, would give some tremendous opportunities, and I think it would. But it does give some questions about the size of this particular site. I also have to think back to the 1970s, please, when we had the health centres building programme, where there was a concept very much as a hub with the GP's accommodation plugged on the side. And I can only tell you in Hereford and Worcestershire, which again is a very rural, small town situation, where it was going to work, and it does work really well. There were some difficulties whereby premises were actually built, and at the last minute, something had happened within the GP's business, or they couldn't get the people, or whatever. And some of these places, that side of it didn't get fulfilled. And so, whilst I was very enthusiastic at the last meeting, I think Christopher Maycock is quite right to raise up the question marks, and certainly the 1970s experience justifies that.
Can I just make a point? Probably Simon might want to come in on this one, but it's just that I think